I mean, it sounds like you know what you're doing.
We discover a lot in our resources and our when we're developing these products. Of course, you address each thing as it comes up. So we learn a lot, we adapt quickly, and we try to make decisions that are in the best interest of the nation as well as, for our stockholders.
Well, so with this kind of a business, Ken, you have to be pretty integrated with government. Back to our issues with the polarization in this country. What's affecting your business right now?
The things that affect our business right now, number one, the overall economy. Everybody's holding on to cash resources. We are growing at exponential rates, and we're always seeking additional support money. We also have experienced kind of a counterintuitive response from government, including Department of Defense and the up on the Hill. So we went up on the Hill to talk to different congressmen and senators and both sides of the fence. We were received kindly by most, and then they explained why they can't really help. This is what you told us is amazing. I didn't know that was a problem, and here's the problems we have in helping you. I was totally shocked to find out we received an invitation from a high-ranking person in the Department of Defense recently, asking for us to come in and explain to them what we found and why we're doing what we're doing. I couldn't have been received in a kinder way. The individual that we spoke with is in charge of basically all Title III uses of money, and also our domestic infrastructure, which I get up on my preaching pedestal there and preach that subject. And she's not from my political persuasion, and she couldn't have been nicer or more kind. So on one hand, over on the Hill, we got this, well, that's all great. I'm glad we know that, but we don't really have a great mechanism to move forward. And then in the DoD, we got a good reception, but then it enters the bureaucracy. They have a way of doing things that we put in a proposal recently. It was rejected, not because of the content of the proposal, because we already had that approved. It was rejected because the paperwork didn't meet their criteria. The way we presented the information didn't fit their narrow scope. So when you want to talk about the problems in the United States, it boils down to bureaucracy.
So it's a white paper formatting issue.
It is. And again,
You
didn't include this. That's because it doesn't apply to what we're doing. But it has to be there. Well, how do you answer a negative?
They're wanting you to add things into it
that don't
as a
belong
package.
There.
Right. Which is how some of these things get through in the first place.
There is a whole industry in just writing these type of proposals, which again, you're adding a layer of bureaucracy, adding a layer of cost. You're removing the talent from the proposal by putting this requirement in the middle. For that part, I'm known to break politics and break. I'm a get to the point, even if you have to break a little bit of glass. I find it frustrating, but then again, I've met the nicest people and the people that have the best intentions in the world. So it's this thing that's happened over time where we've developed all this infrastructure. It's got to run through 20 people, and it's got to meet these specifications. And unless you are a large company, you don't have the staff to meet all that requirement. You just don't. So I think that probably boils down bureaucracy, large government, large process. That's where we have a lot of this problem. And then you have the two philosophies that hit that. You have the libertarianism side, which is closest to anarchy. Not if you go to school today, by the way, they'll teach the opposite, but it is in fact true. And then on the other side, you have the top regulates down, and you just do what we tell you to do, which is more or less how we are right now. So they seek less innovation, even though they claim to seek it. But we want innovation from those people and those companies big enough that we already deal with, that they know how we work. That's who we want to deal with. So companies like us are forced either to break the glass or to find a partner that can help us get through some of those hurdles.
When you say break the glass, what steps are we taking, or what steps are you taking?
I'm taking steps to corner the market on certain supply chains and minerals. So
You're taking it into your own hands.
yeah, I'm going to put them in a position where they don't have a choice.
Once you become the supplier,
you got to deal with me.
they have to deal with you.
Or they have to spend a large amount of money to try to get around it. But we're doing a pretty good job for a company our size at tying up some of our sources.
You sound pretty well positioned.
And I won't. There's certain processes, and even some people at DoD agreed with this format. We keep certain things as trade secret instead of patenting them. That ensures that we protect that information, and the government's obligated to protect that information for us. They're obligated by law. So it's actually better than a patent in a lot of cases. Problem is, if people like me disappear, you got to leave that repository of information with somebody. So that's the way we're dealing with it. We're just dealing with it by trying. We're not big enough to throw anybody around. So if we just hold all the food in our little pocket, somebody's got to come to us and ask for it eventually.
That seems like a good strategy. Speaking of the DoD, I think we should bring on Hampton Dowling, who is a certified project manager for the DoD.
I think that's a great idea. I happen to
see
know
what
Hampton.
he has to say.
I think he's a brilliant guy, and he also understands the geopolitical implications of that.
Hampton's a project manager for the U.S. Department of Defense and an authority on defense and homeland security, with expertise in international business management, strategic planning, and secure commerce, and a myriad of other things that would take too long to list and probably even longer to understand. Let's just say he's well-versed in navigating the complexities of political polarization. Hampton, thanks for coming on
Nick.
and spending some time with us today. How are you?
Hello, live from Washington, so nice to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Hello, Ken.
Hello, Hampton, in the belly of the beast, huh?
Yeah, that's right. If Washington, D.C. is significantly different than any other place in the country, for sure.
As I've become aware.
Yeah.
So, Hampton, as an international man of mystery, what is your take on political polarization in the global landscape?
I don't think we're nearly as polarized as what many people may think. You'd be surprised. I've been traveling to Poland and Hungary recently, and before that to Romania and Ukraine, Estonia, and their views are very similar to those in the United States, which is just based upon the results that you see in polls and electoral behavior and business decisions. It tends to be rather conservative, not nearly as progressive as what you may be led to believe, which is largely conveyed by the media, by the press corps. And it's the same in Europe. In France, just this week in Paris, you wouldn't know this, but there were over 40 or 50,000 people marching in the streets against the current president, wanting to have some of their basic rights protected. But that's nowhere in the press corps. Same in Sweden. They have tremendous immigration issues that are really creating a negative influence on the level of crime that's just increasing at an exacerbated rate. You don't really hear about that very much. People tend to want just basic things that are right and wrong. Businessmen understand basic sound business principles. They want the ability to conduct business in a transparent and fair manner. So when you have governments that are somehow brought to power, somehow depress all those rights and levels of accountability and responsibility, it does create a problem. If you control the message and the messenger, then sometimes the audience, which is the general public, their views aren't necessarily widely viewed or understood. So a minority of people that are in positions of influence are often presented as maybe a majority, when that's not necessarily the case. The news and the media that's presented just in daily television in some countries in Europe is entirely night and day different than what we have in the United States. No, I haven't really found a lot of differing views, certainly not to the extent that maybe we are led to believe over here in the United States.
When you say we have, we're looking at different news feeds. So, what's happening in one country, is maybe not something that we're seeing and vice versa. How do we really know what's going on? How is the public supposed to know? Obviously, you're well-traveled, you're seeing these different news outlets, and you're seeing, things as they happen. How's the general public meant to get a grasp on what's really happening?